Hi, I'm Carolyn, and today I'm going to show you how to make a venison stew with drop dumplings. So we'll start with a pound of venison. I just used a front steak, which is it's kind of like a chop, like a venison chop. So it's about a pound, and you'll notice when you look at venison, there isn't really any marbling in it at all. There's really no fat. It's a really lean, clean meat. So it's very flavorful, and I think that you'll enjoy it if you try it. I've chopped them up into stew-friendly pieces. I'm just going to season them with some kosher salt. And black pepper. Give them a little flip, just so they're good and seasoned. And I should mention too that I have a pan over here that's heating up around medium-high heat. We're going to sear these off. Okay. We're going to dredge these in some flour. Just get a light coating on them. You don't need very much. And to my pan, I'm going to add some canola oil, just for searing. You might need more oil than you think you do with this meat for searing purposes than you would, say, beef or something, because, as I mentioned before, there isn't a lot of fat in venison. We're going to add our meat. Shake off the flour. You don't want excess flour. It just gets goopy. Make sure it's on medium-high so you get some good color on these. These are going to sear probably, I want to say 2 minutes a side, but it's stew meat, so they have more than one side. Just make sure you get a good golden crust around all the pieces. I happen to be very lucky that I have a source for venison, which is deer meat, by the way, in case you didn't know. My dad he's a very skilled hunter, and he also happens to be a very generous man. So he oftentimes will fill my freezer with amazing free-range, lean meats, so I'm very lucky. But if you want to pick up venison, you can probably get it at like a specialty butcher store or something like that. These look like they're good and seared. I'm going to kill our heat, and then I'm going to remove them to a plate that I've just have some paper towel on. And now we can move on to start our roux for the stew. To start out, I have beef stock that's heating up over here on medium-low heat, just to get it warm enough to incorporate into our stew. So I'm going to start here with a few tablespoons of butter that I'm going to melt. All right, my butter is mostly melted. I'm going to add my onion. And I'm going to cook this onion until it's soft, probably about 2 or 3 minutes. All right, now I'm going to add my flour. That should be good. Now I'm going to whisk in a couple ladles of this hot beef stock. And just make sure there aren't any lumps of flour hanging around. All right, now we're going to add some more vegetables. I've got carrots, celery, potatoes, stir these in. I'm going to let these cook in this amount of stock for about 5 or 6 minutes. just until they get a little bit tender. You don't want them to be fully cooked though, because you're going to wind up simmering this later. So just give these a few minutes to do their thing. All right, we are bubbling away over here. So now is the time where you're going to add everything else. So I'm going to add mushrooms, red pepper flakes, some crushed peppers. This is optional. I like spicy stews and soups, so if you don't want to add it, then don't. I've also got some garlic. Some rosemary and thyme. Worcestershire. And actually I'm going to stir that up before I add my venison back in. Well, that's going. I'm also going to season with salt and pepper. Here's our venison. And we'll add the last of our stock. Give it a stir. Now I'm going to add our tomatoes. And a couple tablespoons of fresh parsley. Now this lovely pot of stew is going to simmer uncovered for about 30 to 45 minutes. Check your veggies, make sure they're tender, make sure the venison is tender. If it's not quite tender, give it some more time. I mean, the slower and longer you cook this, the more tender and tastier it's going to be, so let it go. All right, now we're going to make our drop dumplings, and drop dumplings are basically a lazy man's dumpling. It starts with instant biscuit mix. I'm going to add some cheese, cheddar cheese, or whatever cheese you like. Salt, pepper, little paprika, milk, and some fresh parsley. Give that a good stir. All right, that's good and mixed. And now we've got our stew over here that is furiously simmering. Some would call it a boil. Give that a stir. And now we're going to drop, hence the term drop dumplings, right into the stew. So all right, now this stew is going to go into the oven at 375 for about 6 to 8 minutes. You want the dumplings to be fully cooked. If you don't have an oven-proof pot, you can just cover it, and again, just make sure the dumplings are fully cooked. All right, this looks amazing. The dumplings are all puffed up, and they've taken on some color from being in the oven. And this puppy is ready to go straight into a bowl. Make sure you get a little of everything in there. A couple of dumplings, good amount of broth. This is one of the many things that I like to do with venison. it.